guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm delighted to be here today with Emily Penton. She has a fascinating story about her ordeal in the past with mental health issues, and she's someone that I find I can relate to a lot. I've had a lot of people demand me to have Emily on my channel over the last few months, so I've decided, let's get her on and see what she has to say. So Emily, welcome to the channel.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's just such a blessing that you wanted to hear my story, and that we get to talk, we get to connect.
That is brilliant. Yeah. So, what brought you to the carnivore diet? Was there someone that sort of you felt you resonated with, or was it you just thought, I'll try it and see what happens?
Actually, I had debilitating mental illness. I had bipolar disorder, and it turned into rapid cycling and got to the point where I had to quit working. I was a child therapist, and I had to stop working and move in with my mom at the age of 40. And my brother reached out to me. And that was very kind because, family members of people with mental illness, they kind of like don't know what to do with them. They're just like, go be crazy over there. And he reached out to me and he gave me this tool. He told me about a story of a woman named Amber O'Hearn, and she resolved her bipolar disorder. At that point, it was 10 years ago. Now it's 13, 14 years ago, by eating animal meat and animal fat. And I listened to, it was just one chapter of an audiobook, and something's flipped inside of me. I knew in my knowing that I was supposed to do this. And I switched from not really even the standard American diet. It was horrible. It was like batches of cookies. I would eat the entire cookie dough just by itself, entire cartons of ice cream by itself, entire pizzas by itself, wine by the box. I did not eat any vegetables or anything healthy. And then I switched from that overnight to 50% animal meat and 50% animal fat. And it resolved.
That's interesting to hear. So, did you transition immediately into the carnivore diet, or was it that you sort of changed things here and there? Have you found sort of different things have worked more for you over time, like more fat or more protein?
Yeah, no, I switched overnight. And I think that's kind of the beauty of bipolar disorder, was that I was in a place where I could just jump in with both feet. And I didn't look back. Um, and so at first I noticed that I was fine eating chicken and pork and beef, anything, seafood, shrimp, everything, salmon, all the things, animal meat and animal fat. My whole goal, for some reason, my brother told me, I don't even know why he told me this, but he told me, make sure you eat like half fat and half protein. And so I would look at my plate and I would make sure that I had like a pile of meat and a pile of fat. And then so I just ate really, really high fat. And then over time, I would say about a year in, no, probably about 7 months in, 7 or 8 months in, I realized that I was reacting to whatever was in the store, pork and chicken. And so I just stuck with beef. And so I've been pretty much on the lion diet ever since. I just eat beef, beef fat, salt and water.
That's pretty cool to hear. So, a lot of people speak about different reactions they have to different individual animal food groups. So, what sort of reactions were they out of interest?
It was a little bloating and nausea, and chicken made me irritable. So I'm assuming it was the hormones that they put in, and all of these meat sources were from the grocery store. I was on food stamps, so I was getting like the discount bin of meats. I wasn't getting anything from a farm or anything like well sourced. And so that was my reaction. I noticed whenever I would eat chicken, I would be irritable and I would just be like cranky and I would like snap at people. And then one time I ran out of chicken and I just had beef and I was like, oh, I feel great. And then I went and bought some more chicken and I was like, oh, and I'm crabby again. So for me, it was a kind of an emotional reaction.
I see. That's interesting. I've not had that yet myself, but I'm pretty sure if I just eat chicken for a few days, I'll start to feel a bit rubbish. um,
I'm just not full on chicken.
yeah, that makes sense. There's probably not enough fat or something in it. Um, so what is your current diet at the moment? So you said it's just beef and beef fat, I imagine.
Yes.
So,
And a year in, I realized that I was actually reacting even to the beef in the grocery store. And I was eating, like I said, just the regular grocery store stuff. I wasn't eating anything well sourced. And so I found a local farmer. And so now I eat regenerative, grass fed, grass finished beef and beef fat. And for me, that's where I feel best.
do you find that you mentioned earlier about having bipolar and things like that? Is it that that's made the shift so much easier to you? Like, do you think if you didn't have that issue originally or initially, do you think that would have changed how you'd have started the diet and carried on?
Definitely, because pain is a really good motivator, and emotional pain is an incredible motivator. Because I was in the pit of mental illness hell. I didn't want to wake up the next day. I got so paralyzed emotionally that I couldn't even respond to an email or pick up my phone, and I couldn't work. It was so difficult just to bathe, just to do my laundry, just to clean my house. I mean, it was just absolute pure torture on a daily basis. And so when that lifted, it was just like, oh my goodness. This is what normal people feel like. Like, I didn't know. I just was in this misery. And then I had the crazy experience of being hospitalized. And I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And then I couldn't walk without an assistive device, and I had delayed and slurred speech. So a logical person would have been like, oh, I started this all meat diet and now I'm hospitalized with MS. I know that carnivore did not cause the MS. It pulled back the curtain and revealed the MS. And I've had MS symptoms for like 10 plus years. So for me, I knew that this was still the same way of eating. And thankfully, I started eating this way in February of 2019. And my last bipolar episode was April of 2019. And then my last MS symptom was May of 2019. So it's just crazy that you don't get over bipolar disorder and you don't get over MS. You get worse. And I got better and it went away without, and now I'm not on any psych meds at all.
Yeah, that's incredible. As someone that has been on probably most of the medications, probably not maybe not all the ones you've been on, but a lot of them, I think, it is a very challenging thing to do because you have that innate fear, like if you don't have this medication, is the whatever else you're gonna be doing gonna back that up and help you feel relatively normal? So I kind of completely relate to that. It's very heartwarming to feel that someone elsewhere has been for the same sort of experience as me and they've had a benefit and come out on top. I really like to hear that.
Yeah, it was scary. And really nobody was telling me to do this except for my brother. And my psychiatrist was like, okay, do whatever you want. He wasn't against it. He was like, but we're going to keep you on your psych meds. And then all of a sudden, because he's watched me be crazy for 8 years, my psychiatrist. And then all of a sudden we'd be in set and appointments, and he's like, Emily, he's like, there's light in your eyes and you're planning for the future. Like, you're doing. And then I went back to work full time in June. So I started eating this way in February and went back to work full time in June. And I just it's like the air came back into my lungs. And I was just like, wow. And so that's whenever my psychiatrist was like, all right, let's start taping me off of meds. And so we did, and my last psych med was September of 2019. And usually when you taper off meds, you have these like moments of transition, and it's so scary because you're like, okay, is the rug going to get pulled out from underneath me? But it didn't. And I was fine and I was stable. And like I said, I haven't turned back.
That's amazing to hear. So what do you think has obviously the diet's helped, and like how do you think that has helped? Is it inflammation? Is it the blood sugar? Is it a combination of different things?
I definitely think it's inflammation. I think blood sugar is very important as well. That has to do with me being in a healing state. And so I think that's really what helped the autoimmune disease of the multiple sclerosis. Um, but for me, for the mental health, I think it was removing the inflammation in my brain, and just giving me a chance to have a solid thought. Because before, I don't know how, some of your listeners definitely can relate if they've suffered with mental illness, but anyone who doesn't, what happens is that we see things through a completely different lens. We see things through a bipolar lens or a depression lens or an anxiety lens, and we are looking at the same life as everyone else sees, but all we see is torture and terror and horror and just discomfort. And so then whenever those lenses were cleared and I saw my life for what it really is, I was just like, this is a beautiful place. I want to live here. I really like this life. I really like me. I really like, you know, all these different aspects. But I couldn't see that when I was so mentally ill.
Yeah, I love that because it makes you feel more human. You know, as a human, your innate desire is always to continue living and enjoy life. It's very hard to enjoy, and this is why I want to have interviews with people like yourself that have overcome extreme challenges, mental, perhaps physical as well. And one thing I wanted to ask you about was fatigue. So I've suffered with chronic fatigue. Many of my listeners are people that have had similar sort of symptoms as that. Has that improved at all? Does anything in particular help that, do you think?
Yeah, for me, because it's hard to know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but with the multiple sclerosis, I was exhausted. I would have to nap like all the time. And I mean, just I would do a little task and then I would have to sleep, or lay down or rest or whatever. But for me, as long as I kept the sugar out, kept the processed foods out, and I ate enough animal fat, I was good. I was really good. I did have one period of time in April of 2022 where all of a sudden my energy tanked. And I was like, what is this? Like, I've been eating the same way. I didn't do anything different. And I started learning more about blood sugar. And I tested my blood sugar and I found out I was eating too much protein. And so I had to reduce my protein, not significantly. I still eat, a good amount of protein, but then I reduced my blood glucose, and then it raised my ketones, and then I was able to get the air back in my lungs, and I was fine. But I had no idea you could eat too much protein, but apparently I could.
Yeah, I do notice some people have that problem. It's a fine tune between getting enough protein with enough fat, and what I tell people is their individual levers. Not overdo or underdo either one of them. You just got to find that sweet spot, and that sounds like you've done just that. So well done on that. It's quite a challenge, I must admit.
It is, and the fact that it changes, you know, it's like you have to stay in tune with your body. You have to stay in tune with where you're at. And then 4 months ago, I started doing CrossFit. And so I wake up and I go at 5 a.m. every morning and lift really heavy weights and do some really tough workouts. And thankfully, I talked to another coach, and he was like, I think you need to up your protein to do all this. And so I did. I upped my protein just a little bit, just to accommodate that my lifestyle had changed.
Yeah, that sounds sensible. Did you track your protein and fat at all? Or was it just been intuitively eat a bit more?
I'm trying to think. Do we have the same measurements? Because I only measure in ounces.
Oh, we use this. Yeah, we use grams.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what it is in grams. So I guess anybody can who watches this replay can just do the conversions yourself. But when I was eating before, like way before my energy tanked, I was eating 2 pounds of meat a day. And I was eating a lot of meat. And then when my energy tanked in April of 2022, I went down to, I think it was 10 ounces of protein a day. It was a significant jump down. And then my energy came back. And then whenever I started CrossFit, I went up to 14 ounces of protein a day. And then all the rest is fat. I usually eat about 2,800 calories a day.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Have you found that the diet itself has improved your body composition, or is it just that you've came to the diet from a relatively fit state and you've been able to maintain it better? Or
No, I was gigantic. I
uh,
was I don't know what it is in yours, but for mine, I was at my most, I think I was about 260 pounds. Um and uh now I'm like 130, 130. And that was pretty quick. I lost 120, 130 pounds within the first year and a half. And what I noticed is that like a lot of people who lose weight that fast, they have all this extra skin, and I don't have extra skin. And I think it's because I eat so much fat. And it's just like my extra skin just like absorbed back into itself. Um, and I mean, it's still there. You can still tell, oh yeah, she was a big girl, but it's not like I need surgery.
fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I've my heaviest I got up to something like 280 pounds. And me on a 6'1", quite large frame, that felt quite tricky. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine how you felt as a sort of more petite female.
I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't, do anything. And I was always out of breath. I was always like overheated. Like I had just any time that I went anywhere, it's like I had to have a fan in my face. Like I was just so hot. And the doctors were like, "Oh, that's just old age." And I'm like, "No, I'm not supposed to feel this way." And so now it's just like totally gone.
That's fascinating. Have you noticed anything else about your health that's changed? Obviously, you've lost a ton of weight. You feel much more mentally better. You're able to function a lot better as a fellow human. So, what else has improved? Has anything changed at all?
Well, my whole career changed because I went back to being a therapist and realized very quickly that the licensing board and the insurance panels didn't want me talking about food. And so here I have this client across the table from me, or across the office from me, and I know what could help them. And I just feel like my hands are tied behind my back and I can't tell them, you know? And so I quickly just let go of the letters behind my name. I didn't care. I was like, just call me a coach. And so I just started coaching people. And I've had more significant transformation in being a coach with this way of eating and mindset than I ever did as a therapist. It's so fun. Like being a therapist, it was almost like Groundhog Day. Like the person would come in and we'd talk about the problems and I'd give them exercises and we would go through the same thing. And then the next week they'd come in and talk about the problem and blah, 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 blah. It's just the same. And now I literally get to watch people transform before my very eyes. And it's so fun.
Yeah, I'm finding the same thing. I come from a background of working in retail as a store manager for a health food store, and people would come in, consult with me about different things. And it's always the same thing. It's like a wheel, people they kind of knew what they had to do, but they didn't want to do it. So that's quite frustrating. But I think people that seek help and go willingly, sort of thing, they see obviously the transformation you've made, and they can think, you know, if this lady can do it, she's gone from here to here. I'm gonna be able to do it as well. So congratulations on that. That's very good.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And I love helping people. And my favorite client is the most miserable people. I love helping people that are just like, nothing works and my life is over and this is miserable. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like, let's go. Like this is gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. What advice would you give to viewers that are watching this, perhaps, if they want to start the diet and they come from a similar sort of background to you?
Definitely start where you're at. I'm a rip the band-aid off kind of a girl, and so that worked for me. But I recognize that some people need to like just dip their toes in the water. For instance, I had a client who came to me and he was drinking 9 diet sodas a day. And so he was just like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. Got to do this. And I was just like, how long have you been drinking 9 sodas, diet sodas a day? Oh, about 20 years. And I'm like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, how about you drink 8 diet sodas a day? And he was like, oh, no, it's killing me. I gotta quit it. I gotta quit it. And I'm like, have you tried to quit it before? And he was like, well, yeah. And I'm like, how'd that work out for you? He was like, I got a headache. I felt horrible. I this and I'm just like, okay, so we're gonna just go to 8 a day for a week, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll go to 7 a day for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And so you really need to start where you're at, because if you have these goals like way up here, and you just keep jumping for those goals and you keep failing, you're reinforcing that you are a failure. But if you lower that and you get to the point where you can jump, you reinforce that you can do things and that you can operate in success. Then you push the bar up a little bit and then you can do that. So you need to really be in a place of success.
I understand. Yeah, it sounds a bit like a psychosomatic response. So you almost kind of want to accept what you're currently doing and accept you need to make a small change, then make that small change. But you know that, for example, in the case of that gentleman, one Diet Coke probably wasn't going to kill him. It might make him feel a bit worse, but one Diet Coke versus cutting out all 9 of them seems a lot more sustainable, I think, and then he can, transition further along. So
Uh,
yeah, so
uh,
transitioning, choosing the right way to transition, whether you're going to rip it off or just take it slowly, that's very sensible. And what other advice would you give to people? Perhaps maybe in the nature of like food choices, would you say to someone, go strict on the carnivore diet or do more of a mixed sort of animal food diet?
yeah, I would definitely say to do a mix of like where you're at. And what I tell everyone to prioritize is animal fat, because then you're getting that satiety, you're satiated. And so it makes everything so much easier when you're just full. And then whenever you have a craving, fill that craving with fat, with animal fat. And my caveat is that the people who come to me, our goal is not immediate weight loss. And so that is not where I'm at. That's where we're going to get eventually. But first, we have to kill the sugar monster. And once we can kill the sugar monster, then we can get to the place where we can figure out the macros and everything. But for at the immediate start, when somebody's going from binge eating and just significantly tortured by sugar cravings, we have to calm that. And the best way for that I've found for people to do that is to eat more animal fat, and then we can chisel everything out a little bit later.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. I mean, I know it's myself with different clients. If they approach me and I want to lose maybe 20 pounds in a month or something, I say it's probably not going to be very sustainable or safe. If you're going to do it anyway and you want some help doing it, this is probably what I'd advise you to do. The problem is they never check in with me. They're no longer clients of mine. So it just goes to show they have that mentality and they fall off quickly. They don't address their health, their addiction, all that sort of thing first, which is a very good point you brought up there, I think.
Absolutely. And the goal is compliance. The goal is always compliance. It's not, I'm going to white knuckle this for 2 months and then I'm going to fall off. No, you have to just learn this new language of compliance, of setting a goal and then complying to it. And you get to write the goal. Like this guy, he went from 9 diet sodas a day to 8 diet sodas a day, and then gradually went down. And that's so typical that people, they rush into things and they try to do things too fast, and it's better to go slow and then to get those long lasting results.
Yeah, I like that. So, Emily, do you have any sort of concluding thoughts, or do you have any sort of programs or anything you're looking to do in the future?
Yeah, if anybody wants to look me up, just go to emilypenton.com and you'll see all the links there. To do an initial call with me, it's $111 US. And it's called a clarity call, because what we do is we get clarity on where you're at and where you want to go and how I can help you, or what you're already doing that's working. And then if you decide to work with me further, I only have 2 other options. Well, actually 3. I have a free Saturday food support group, and that's every Saturday. And you'll find the link on emilypenton.com. And we record those and put those up on YouTube. So even if you're too scared to even go into a Zoom meeting, you can go watch the replays on YouTube. So that's free. And then I have group coaching. If anybody wants to come, we meet once a week, and that's really for life. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what I do is I give you that Zoom link, and I don't change that Zoom link, and I give that to all my clients for life. That any week that they want to come back and check in with me, they can do that. But that's $1,800 for the group coaching. And then for the individual coaching, we have daily interaction, either through email, through phone, through Zoom meetings, through group meetings. And that is $6,500. And so I absolutely love working with the most miserable people, the people who are just like, okay, my life's over. Nothing's ever going to work. I've tried everything. And I love getting into the pit with those people and showing them the way out.
Yeah, I like that. I think sometimes it does help to have that extra support. It might not be necessarily that you need to do the daily thing, but there are other options there if you just wanted to do a weekend thing, join in the Zoom hangout sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I
Right.
love it. I love my job.
Yeah, I enjoy the same thing. It's very fulfilling to help people, especially when they come from a place that sometimes you might have been in yourself. So you can see where they're coming from. You can help guide them along the way.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you, Jonathan, for your channel. I just watched some of the interview you did with Mark. And I really appreciate you bringing this information and these interviews to people.
My pleasure. I'm glad to do it, and it's I do get good feedback generally speaking, apart from a few trolls, but that's life, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're always there.
Yeah. All right. What I'll do is I'll link all of Emily's things below in the show notes. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.